The story of America's modern security apparatus begins not with the flash of headlines or the dramatic confrontations of espionage, but in the quiet, often overlooked corridors of early 20th century institutions. In the years following the turn of the century, the United States was grappling with rapid industrialization, urban migration, and the social upheavals that accompanied the rise of modern cities. Crime was evolving alongside society, with organized networks exploiting new technologies and transportation systems to outpace local law enforcement. In this climate of uncertainty, the need for a centralized investigative body became increasingly apparent. It was in this environment that the Federal Bureau of Investigation emerged, a product of both political necessity and a cultural obsession with law, order, and the promise of modern policing. The FBI's origins were modest, almost unassuming. Initially formed as the Bureau of Investigation in 1908, it was staffed with a handful of investigators and clerks operating under the Department of Justice. Their work was painstaking, often mundane by the standards of espionage thrillers, tracking mail fraud, investigating land claims, and scrutinizing interstate crimes that local authorities could not resolve. Yet beneath these procedural beginnings lay an implicit philosophy that would define the Bureau for decades, a belief in the supremacy of law, the importance of accountability, and the power of meticulous documentation. As the years unfolded, the agency grew steadily, driven by high-profile cases that captured public imagination, kidnappings that ended in national tragedy, organized crime that threatened entire cities, and political corruption that eroded trust in the system. Each of these episodes reinforced the FBI's core mandate to protect the domestic order, to be the hand that extended justice beyond the limitations of local jurisdiction. In contrast, the Central Intelligence Agency story begins not within the courts or crime scenes of American cities, but amid the strategic calculations of global conflict. The CIA was formally established in 1947, in the aftermath of the Second World War, and in the early tremors of the Cold War. Its roots lay in the Office of Strategic Services, a wartime intelligence organization tasked with gathering information on enemy movements, infiltrating hostile territories, and understanding geopolitical shifts that could determine the fate of nations. While the FBI operated under a legalistic framework, the CIA functioned in shadows, guided by analysis, strategy, and an often uncomfortable negotiation between secrecy and accountability. Its agents were trained not merely to observe, but to anticipate, to shape events subtly, and to influence outcomes far beyond American borders. The CIA's mandate was global, abstract, and inherently fluid, defined as much by the unknown threats of the post-war world as by the explicit objectives of national policy. The divergence between these two agencies is not merely functional, it is philosophical. The FBI's domain is visible and tangible, its successes measured in solved crimes, secured communities, and convicted perpetrators. The CIA's impact, by contrast, is frequently invisible, operating in political, economic, and military arenas where outcomes are probabilistic and often ambiguous. Their approaches reflect these differences. FBI agents are trained to methodically collect evidence, build narratives that can withstand scrutiny in courtrooms, and rely on analytical precision to piece together the puzzle of criminal behavior. CIA operatives, while also analytical, must contend with uncertainty on a global scale, balancing intelligence gathering with psychological operations, diplomacy, and the management of human sources in environments where missteps can have profound geopolitical consequences. Yet despite these contrasts, both agencies share a common thread: an obsession with information. The FBI meticulously records photographs and catalogs its investigations, creating a living archive of American crime and enforcement. Its archives are more than bureaucratic repositories. They are testaments to the agency's belief that knowledge is the foundation of justice. The CIA, too, is built on intelligence, though it is often secreted behind layers of classification and compartmentalization. Each report, each intercepted communication, each assessment of foreign capabilities contributes to a broader mosaic, a picture that, once fully assembled, allows policymakers to act with strategic confidence. In both cases, the collection, interpretation, and management of information is the lifeblood of institutional power. Historical context amplifies the distinction. The FBI's growth paralleled the rise of domestic threats, bootlegging during Prohibition, the surge of organized crime in Chicago and New York, and the ideological anxieties of the Red Scare. Public attention, media scrutiny, and political pressure shaped its priorities, reinforcing a narrative of law and order intimately tied to American identity. The CIA, however, matured in an era where threats were amorphous and distant: the spread of communism, the tension between superpowers, and the uncharted consequences of atomic weaponry. Its agents were not only observers but actors, often tasked with influencing events in ways invisible to the American public. The stakes were different, the tools different, and the psychology demanded of its operatives far more opaque. The contrast extends into organizational culture. The FBI cultivated a disciplined, hierarchical environment with strict codes of conduct, where loyalty to law and protocol was paramount. Success was measured by the clarity of evidence and the efficacy of prosecution. The CIA's culture was more fluid, adaptive, and tolerant of ambiguity, where innovation, discretion, and creative problem-solving were essential. In practice, this meant that while an FBI agent might spend months building a case for a bank robbery, a CIA operative could be orchestrating clandestine operations in a foreign country, navigating a web of alliances and enmities that demanded both cunning and patience. Yet despite the differences, the narrative of these agencies is intertwined by the historical forces that shaped modern America. The emergence of the FBI and CIA reflects a broader recognition that security, whether domestic or international, requires institutions capable of anticipating threats, analyzing complex systems, and acting decisively. Their stories are part of a continuum in which the balance between visibility and secrecy, law and strategy, domestic and global, defines the contours of power in the United States. Archival materials, declassified reports, and historical accounts reveal these tensions, offering insight into how two distinct agencies came to occupy central roles in the nation's conception of safety and influence. By examining these foundational years, it becomes clear that the FBI and CIA are not interchangeable, nor are they in constant competition by default. Their purposes were deliberately differentiated, one to police the nation, the other to understand and shape the world beyond its borders. Yet both reflect a deeper human preoccupation with control, understanding, and the management of risk. The birth of each agency is a story of ambition, foresight, and adaptation, illustrating how the United States sought to respond to challenges it could neither fully predict nor entirely comprehend. As the narrative of their origins closes, the viewer is left not with a sense of finality, but with a reflective understanding of purpose and principle. The FBI and CIA were born of different needs, shaped by different circumstances, and guided by different philosophies. Yet both stand as enduring examples of institutional response to uncertainty, a reminder that the management of information, the anticipation of threat, and the careful calibration of action have long been central to the American experience. In this historical lens, the apparent rivalry between domestic law enforcement and international intelligence is reframed as complementary facets of a larger national strategy, each necessary, each constrained by its own mandate, and each leaving a lasting imprint on the story of the nation. As the agencies move beyond their foundational years, the story of their work began to unfold not in the broad strokes of legislation or organizational design, but in the granular, meticulous rhythm of daily operations. For the Federal Bureau of Investigation, this meant a relentless engagement with the visible threats that punctuated American life: violent crime, organized syndicates, ideological extremism, and the growing specter of terrorism. Their offices, often unremarkable from the outside, were filled with a quiet intensity: the steady clatter of typewriters, the faint hum of early computers, and the faint, persistent aroma of ink and paper. Investigators hunched over case files, poring through witness statements and evidence logs, attuned to the minute details that could unravel a criminal's carefully constructed narrative. The methodology was painstaking, profiling the psychology of offenders, reconstructing crime scenes with methodical precision, and cross-referencing mountains of data to detect patterns invisible to the casual observer. Each case was a puzzle, demanding patience, insight, and a disciplined rigor that the Bureau cultivated as its defining characteristic. In contrast, the CIA operated in a world where the dangers were less tangible, where the stakes were measured not in arrest warrants, but in the delicate balances of international politics. Its operatives navigated foreign capitals under assumed identities, slipping between embassies, covert meetings, and shadowed alleys, often with only partial knowledge of the forces arrayed against them. Their work demanded not just observation but influence, persuasion, and, at times, deception. Intelligence gathering required the cultivation of human sources who might betray as easily as they informed, the careful analysis of intercepted communications, and the interpretation of subtle geopolitical signals that could foretell conflicts or alliances. The psychological demands were immense. patience interwoven with perpetual vigilance, a constant awareness that a single misstep could ripple into far-reaching consequences. Unlike the courtroom-focused metrics of the FBI, success in the CIA was measured by the shaping of outcomes, often unseen and uncredited, a quiet influence that could determine the course of nations. The operational cultures of the two agencies reflected these differences. In the FBI, there was a rhythm to investigations, a procedure that allowed for accountability and traceability. Field agents balanced risk with adherence to law, aware that each action could be scrutinized in court or under public gaze. Training emphasized meticulous observation, logical deduction, and the construction of narratives robust enough to withstand the adversarial process of prosecution. The tools of the trade were forensic as much as tactical. Fingerprint analysis, ballistic reconstruction, criminal profiling, and in later decades, the integration of digital forensics. Even in moments of high tension, agents were guided by a philosophy that order and evidence could overcome chaos and criminal ingenuity. By contrast, the CIA cultivated an operational environment defined by ambiguity. Agents often worked alone or in small, compartmentalized teams with limited oversight and broad latitude to achieve strategic objectives. Their tools were intelligence reports, coded communications, surveillance technology, and the careful management of human networks. Operations ranged from monitoring political movements to orchestrating covert interventions, each demanding a subtle understanding of local culture, psychology, and power dynamics. The agency's work was inherently probabilistic. Actions were taken on incomplete information, success measured in incremental shifts rather than clear-cut victories. The stress of operating under these conditions, constant secrecy, the ever-present threat of exposure, and the need for rapid adaptability, shaped a mindset attuned to nuance, patience, and resilience. Historical episodes provide windows into these operational contrasts. In the FBI, cases such as the pursuit of organized crime in mid-century America revealed an institution capable of relentless pressure, leveraging informants, surveillance, and meticulous legal preparation to dismantle syndicates that seemed impregnable. Agents endured long hours, combed through mountains of evidence, and coordinated across jurisdictions, navigating political pressures and public scrutiny while remaining committed to the procedural integrity of their work. Their victories were tangible: arrests, indictments, and the slow restoration of public trust. Each success reinforced the Bureau's core identity, rooted in visibility, law, and methodical enforcement. The CIA's most illustrative moments occurred far from public view. During the Cold War, operatives infiltrated foreign governments, assessed the strength of clandestine networks, and sometimes influenced political outcomes to favor American interests. Each operation carried enormous stakes. Failures could destabilize regions, endanger lives, or provoke diplomatic crises. Unlike the FBI's measured courtroom victories, the CIA's achievements were measured in subtle shifts: the neutralization of a threat, the prevention of escalation, or the acquisition of critical intelligence that could avert conflict. The work demanded a different kind of psychological endurance, an acceptance of uncertainty, and an intimate understanding of both human and geopolitical dynamics. Despite their differences, the agencies occasionally converged in purpose, creating moments of tension, collaboration, and mutual influence. Joint operations require negotiation between legal frameworks and operational freedom, a delicate balancing act between transparency and secrecy. The FBI's insistence on legal adherence could clash with the CIA's imperative for discretion, yet when managed successfully, these interactions produced powerful synergies. Such intersections highlighted a shared recognition. Intelligence and enforcement are most effective when contextualized within the broader architecture of national security. Each agency, through its methods and priorities, shaped the other indirectly, influencing policy, training, and operational philosophy. The day-to-day realities of these organizations were also defined by their internal pressures. For the FBI, the omnipresent gaze of the public, media, and political oversight created an environment in which every error was magnified, every procedural misstep a potential scandal. Agents internalized these pressures, balancing urgency with caution, and cultivating a professional culture in which precision and accountability were paramount. The CIA faced different but no less intense pressures: the threat of exposure in hostile territories, the moral and ethical ambiguities of covert operations, and the constant weight of responsibility for decisions whose consequences could reverberate globally. In both cases, the work exacted a personal toll, demanding resilience, ethical clarity, and the capacity to operate under sustained, high-stakes tension. Through this lens, the narrative of operations becomes not merely a catalog of techniques, but study in human psychology, institutional identity, and the complex interplay between mandate and method. The FBI exemplifies a methodical, law-driven approach, measured, accountable, and visible. The CIA embodies a probabilistic, strategy-driven approach, adaptive, secretive, and influential in ways often imperceptible to the public eye. Both agencies, however, share a commitment to intelligence as power, the gathering, interpretation, and application of information as the foundation of security. Their operational worlds, while divergent, reveal complementary facets of American defense, one confronting threats within the nation's borders, the other shaping outcomes beyond them. As the chapter closes, the viewer is invited to reflect on the subtle tensions between public accountability and covert action, between procedural rigor and strategic ambiguity. These operational realities are not abstract, they are lived experiences shaping the decisions, psychology, and culture of every agent and operative. In understanding how the FBI and CIA interpret and enact their respective mandates, one gains insight into the broader machinery of American security, a system calibrated to balance visibility with secrecy, law with strategy, and certainty with the unpredictable currents of human behavior and international affairs. The narrative leaves a measured awareness. The daily work of these agencies, though often invisible or procedural, forms the backbone of national protection, and the methods they employ reveal the very essence of their distinct, yet intertwined roles. The story of the FBI and CIA reaches its most intricate contours not in isolation, but at the points where their paths intersect, often quietly, sometimes tensely, and occasionally in ways that reshape the very understanding of national security. Unlike the neatly defined origins of each agency, these intersections are messy, layered with overlapping mandates, competing priorities, and the subtle pressures of political expectation. From domestic terrorism to international crises, moments of collaboration and friction reveal the delicate balance between law enforcement and intelligence, and the human and institutional complexities that govern these interactions. It is in this space, between transparency and secrecy, jurisdiction and ambition, that the broader character of American security is most vividly expressed. Historically, these intersections were first tested during periods of crisis, when the boundaries between domestic law enforcement and foreign intelligence blurred. The Cold War, for example, presented a landscape where ideological threats did not respect borders. The FBI, with its deep expertise in counterintelligence and domestic surveillance, was tasked with monitoring internal subversion, while the CIA focused on assessing foreign operations and their potential impacts within the United States. The lines of responsibility were defined in principle, but often indistinct in practice. Coordination required negotiation, mutual understanding, and a recognition that missteps could have consequences far beyond either agency's immediate purview. The very act of navigating these overlaps demanded psychological acuity, organizational diplomacy, and a capacity to manage both ego and protocol within environments charged with secrecy and urgency. Operational friction was not uncommon. Jurisdictional debates often arose over the possession and interpretation of intelligence, where the FBI's insistence on legal process could conflict with the CIA's need for rapid, sometimes extralegal, intervention. An internal memorandum or an intercepted communication might carry implications for both agencies, yet the avenues for sharing, contextualizing, or acting on that information were governed by policy, precedent, and the personal discretion of senior operatives. In these moments, trust became both currency and vulnerability. Decisions required careful calibration, weighing the necessity of secrecy against the imperative of accountability, and balancing the pressure of immediate threats with the long-term consequences for national credibility and legal propriety. Collaboration, when successful, revealed the complementary strengths of each agency. The FBI's investigative rigor could validate or contextualize intelligence gathered abroad, while the CIA's global reach could provide perspective and foresight for domestic operations. High-profile cases, such as the monitoring of terrorist cells with transnational connections, demonstrated the value of coordinated action. Here, meticulous casework converged with strategic analysis. Field agents in American cities traced the logistical patterns of operatives, while intelligence officers abroad mapped the networks facilitating those movements. The resulting synergy was not dramatic in the cinematic sense, but it was powerful, producing outcomes that strengthened public safety and informed policy in subtle, enduring ways. Yet the process was never seamless. Political pressures amplified the stakes, with both agencies subject to oversight from Congress, the White House, and the public narrative. A single miscalculation, a leaked document, a misinterpreted threat, an overreach in surveillance could create institutional conflict, eroding trust and complicating future cooperation. Within the agencies, internal cultures shaped responses. The FBI's procedural discipline demanded adherence to protocol even under intense scrutiny, while the CIA's operatives were trained to interpret ambiguity and act decisively despite incomplete information. The contrast could spark tension, particularly when urgency collided with legality or when strategic patience was misread as inaction. Yet over decades, these frictions also fostered institutional learning, refining the mechanisms for information sharing, joint operations, and the negotiation of authority. The human dimension of these interactions is equally consequential. Individual agents and analysts bore the psychological weight of navigating interagency dynamics while confronting threats that could range from domestic bombings to foreign espionage campaigns. The FBI agent tracking a radicalized group in an American city, for instance, would rely not only on empirical evidence but also on intuition, judgment, and the ability to anticipate consequences within a legal framework. The CIA operative monitoring the same group's international connections faced a different calculus, weighing risk to assets, interpreting geopolitical signals, and deciding when and how to influence events beyond immediate public knowledge. Both were motivated by intelligence and responsibility, yet each confronted pressures that tested ethics, discretion, and personal resilience. In these layered human experiences, the institutional philosophies of law, secrecy, and strategic foresight intersect and occasionally collide. Case studies illuminate the stakes and consequences of these interactions. Operations against terrorist networks with international reach reveal the delicate choreography required between FBI surveillance and CIA intelligence. Each piece of information, intercepted communications, travel patterns, financial transactions, needed to be evaluated, shared, and acted upon within frameworks that respected law, operational security, and strategic necessity. The smallest misstep could compromise an investigation or endanger lives. Conversely, successful coordination produced results that were often invisible to the public but profoundly influential, disrupting networks, informing policy decisions, and shaping the broader security landscape. The narrative of these episodes highlights a tension inherent to the American intelligence model, the constant negotiation between visibility and secrecy, accountability and autonomy, domestic law and global strategy. Public perception adds another layer of complexity. The FBI's visibility means its actions are closely scrutinized by media, courts, and citizen watchdogs, while the CIA's secrecy often breeds suspicion and myth-making. Moments of collaboration or conflict between the agencies can amplify these perceptions, shaping narratives that influence public trust, policy debates, and political rhetoric. Misunderstandings of purpose and method are common. The visible hand of law enforcement is easier to interpret than the invisible influence of foreign intelligence. Yet both contribute to national security in ways that are complementary and interdependent, highlighting the nuanced interplay between operational mandate and societal expectation. The broader consequences of these intersections are evident in policy outcomes. Decisions informed by joint analysis, coordinated surveillance, and strategic intelligence have guided national security policy, counterterrorism strategies, and diplomatic responses. The agencies' collaboration, or at times their tension, has influenced legislation, shaped crisis response frameworks, and informed the ethical and legal debates that continue to define intelligence and law enforcement today. These outcomes underscore a critical lesson. Understanding the differences between the FBI and CIA is not merely academic, but essential to comprehending how the United States manages risk, threat, and influence at home and abroad. By the chapter's conclusion, the viewer is encouraged to reflect on the layered nature of power, trust, and secrecy. The FBI and CIA are not antagonists in a narrative of competition, nor are they perfectly aligned partners. They operate in parallel, intersecting at moments of mutual necessity, defined by different mandates, yet bound by a shared responsibility to protect the nation. Their histories, operational methods, and cultural philosophies illuminate broader truths about governance, accountability, and the human dimensions of intelligence work. In appreciating these intersections, one sees not a rivalry defined by opposition, but a complex architecture of national security where law enforcement, intelligence, and strategy converge in subtle, consequential, and often invisible ways. The narrative closes not with dramatic confrontation, but with a reflective perspective on continuity and purpose. Understanding the nuanced relationship between the FBI and CIA illuminates the mechanics of American security, revealing a system designed to balance authority with discretion, visibility with secrecy, and domestic stability with global engagement. Their intertwined histories, shaped by collaboration and friction, demonstrate that the nation's approach to security is as much about the careful management of human judgment, institutional mandate, and psychological resilience as is about the pursuit of justice or the collection of intelligence. In the quiet reflection of these intersections, the enduring architecture of American protection becomes apparent: intricate, deliberate, and profoundly human.